All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Gina Wallner. I am the Dean at Bay College West Campus, and welcome to our first virtual career panel. These panels will focus on a variety of fields, and they're designed to provide students with an opportunity to connect with some of our community experts to gain insight into areas of interest, and then just learn and get advice from professionals who are currently working in these fields today. Today's field of interest is engineering, and our three panelists include Doug Sage, Manufacturing Engineering Group Leader for Systems Control, Gus Gentilla, you guys can wave when I say it, it's cool, Gus Gentilla, Civil Engineer and Office Project Manager at UP Engineers and Architects, and Hallie McColl, Mechanical Engineer at Lakeshore Systems. So to get things going, we're just going to have everybody introduce themselves and kind of just tell their story. Where are you from, educational background, where you work and what you do, kind of already said that. And then one fun fact that most people would find interesting, but probably don't know. So Doug, you're at the top of my screen. Why don't you just kick us off?
Yes, I'm Doug Sage. I originally come from Canada. I was born in Toronto, went to high school in Sudbury, Ontario, and made my way to the United States and went to Michigan Tech for 2 degrees. Second one is mechanical engineering. And from there, I worked at Terex and I worked at Boss Snowplow, and also now at Systems Control, generally in the manufacturing engineering realm of one form or another, whether it's continuous improvement, technical resource, or what have you. Fun fact, recently got volunteered to be the scout master of my son's scout troop.
Was it volunteered or voluntold, Doug?
Probably a little both.
Cool.
But it was mostly me. I signed up.
I also think you should tell everyone what your middle name is, as I recently learned this because I think it's awesome.
All right, so that's a second. I was saving that one for later. My middle name actually is Douglas Houghton Sage, named after the Michigan geologist. So when I went to Tech, it was fun to be called Douglas Houghton. No one believed me that when I was staying at Douglas Houghton that I was Douglas Houghton Sage, and out came the driver's license to make sure that I was being truthful. So that's a fun fact, and it was purposely done. My dad's a geologist.
I'm sure, I love that story. All right, we'll go down to Gus.
Okay, Gus Gentilla. Let's see, I'm originally from Calumet, Michigan. I'm the office manager in Iron Mountain, Michigan for UP Engineers and Architects. I went to college at Michigan Tech. I obtained a bachelor's degree in civil engineering. Yeah, I guess my experience is primarily in bridge design, road design, building design, primarily structural engineering, and now more of a project management role. Let's see, what else was there?
A fun fact.
A fun fact. Okay. I like fly fishing, and I like to tie flies. So I guess that'd be one.
Perfect. All right, take it away, Hallie.
All right, so my name is Hallie McColl. I am from Lower Michigan, the Detroit area, and I kind of found my way up to the UP. I went to Michigan Tech and received my bachelor's of mechanical engineering in 2015. After that, I went back down to Detroit to work for the automotive industry. Lasted about a year, kind of found out that I didn't really enjoy the big city life. I kind of got acclimated to the UP and enjoyed that. So
reeled you in.
Yeah. Yep, you guys reeled me in. And so I came back up here. I started working at the foundry in town. And now I work at Lakeshore as a defense engineer, mechanical engineer. And I also received my MBA from a private business college downstate in 2018. So the 2 degrees I hold are my BSME and my MBA. And I guess a cool fun fact about me is I'm really into orchids. I have about, I think, 50 different species around my house.
Wow.
My house is like a jungle most of the time, but yeah, I kind of fell into like orchideering is what I call it. And that's something I really enjoy and have enjoyed during this pandemic since I can't go anywhere.
That's awesome. Very cool. And I think we start off right with you with our first question. So, Hallie, what does your job look like day to day?
So to give a little bit of a background, Lakeshore works with building components for the Navy. So we put a lot of equipment on ships, a lot of maritime equipment. And so as a mechanical engineer, I work to create those designs or help with troubleshooting with the customer in the field. Some of the equipment that I've worked on are like weapons handling systems, such as crash cranes, weapons elevators, ammo elevators, stuff like that. It's pretty cool on a day-to-day basis. You get to wear a lot of hats. I definitely use my degree. I do a lot of math. I do a lot of SolidWorks. I do a lot of FEA. And every day is different. You know, you can come in on a day and sit and do drawings all day, or you could be working on a calculation all day for a customer who's having issues with, you know, some forces that they might be seeing on a certain piece of equipment. Or, you know, a customer might have a question and your whole day is filled with meetings trying to answer those questions. So that's the nice thing about being in a small company. You get to wear a lot of different hats. Sure. And yeah, every day is a challenge, and it's pretty fun, pretty fast paced as well. I really enjoy that.
That's awesome. Guys, you want to jump in on that and kind of wait, like, how does yours differ or similar?
I'd say mine is pretty similar. Some days I could be working on calculations all day. Other days I might be working on proposals for new work or project management type stuff, meetings, staffing. But yeah, probably the most enjoyable part of it would be just doing calculations and bringing the project from start to finish and seeing it then be constructed and have that fulfillment of knowing that you worked on it and you did the work and now it's built and being used by the public.
That's cool. You know, one thing that's interesting is between Doug and Hallie, like you guys are working in bigger manufacturers, and Gus, you're working in a smaller, just the function of the business is different. Do you think, how does it, from hearing what Hallie said, how is that different in your role at UP Engineering Architects?
Well, our office here in Iron Mountain is very small. We only have about 5 staff members, currently 3. 2 of them are part-time, and but our company is fairly mid-size, I would say. We have 5 offices, 4 in the UP and 1 in Wisconsin.
Okay.
And so we work with the other offices on projects all over the UP, all over Wisconsin. I'm actually licensed in Pennsylvania too, because we do projects out there for the United States Forest Service. So I guess, yeah, there's a small feel for sure, but sometimes it can feel a little bit bigger for those reasons.
Sure. Doug, what say you?
Oh, I'm probably a little different, but similar. As a group lead, I actually have engineers underneath me. As a manufacturing engineer, we tend to be more troubleshooting oriented or a technical reference. So my day-to-day is, I have a lot of young engineers right now, so I spend time mentoring them through our processes and also to the topics. We assign engineers to to help improve specific parts of our business. Systems control builds control houses. So basically it's a steel house that has high voltage control panels on the inside of it. And it's a rather large place. So I have engineers that are focused in specific areas. Up until recently, it's been a fairly small team. So if I'm not mentoring, I'm setting priorities, or I've actually filled in as technical references for different areas, whether it be welding, AWS welding, or whether it's I wouldn't say I'm an AWS certified. I'm not certified, but when they've had questions, I've had to go find the answers. Paint is the same thing. Nothing you learn in college, or just general engineering answers as well. So it's mine's a little bit of a combination of technical, but also more leadership, if you will, and supervision.
People stuff for sure. Not doing the hands-on work probably quite as much.
Right.
Doug, you're up in the question queue, and we'll just bring it back around. What skills were you lacking when you started? Also, what skills are you seeing with new hires that are lacking, or that could use some work?
I probably would say, in my opinion, is probably what I was lacking is probably the same what I see in new hires. I'd say the first one is, for me as a manufacturing engineer, I'd say awareness to the variety of communication styles. I know that sounds big, but as a manufacturing engineer, we work with the guys literally doing the job on the floor all the way. In our business, I could be talking to the vice president or the president of the company. And each of those communication takes on different looks in different situations. And I never realized that. As a person, I just figured, hey, I'm easy to talk to. I can hold a conversation, and not scare people. But in certain situations, whether it's an engineer, whether it's the welder, or whether it's a painter, or an assembler, or whether you're talking to the vice president, there's definitely different styles that you need to have and learn how to bring your point forward. And I think that'd be the first one I would say. And the second one is, and this just comes with experience, is just critically thinking how to apply your knowledge in the situation that you find yourself in. That'd be the two things I'd probably say, is in both of which are experience based, but if you can be aware of that, that'd be and learn through those points, that'd be the two things I'd say.
For sure. As a non-engineer, I definitely can appreciate when engineers can speak my language. Break it down for me. Gus and Hallie, do you have anything to add to that for you guys in your roles, careers?
I would agree. When I worked at the foundry, I had to be on the floor like 80% of the time. And there's a different communication style between talking to a customer versus, a core maker, or, a pattern maker or something like that. And so having to kind of switch gears and kind of get on their level and stuff like that, that's definitely something that is a skill, and it is something that you really can only learn through experience.
I was just going to ask, what's your advice on how they can learn this better, or pick up that skill?
Put yourself in their shoes. I think that's the biggest thing, is just get on their level, put yourself in their shoes, make them understand that you're a human too, and you're not, from Mars. I think a lot of people think like engineers are like these odd ducks that kind of think on
when
like
you're speaking to someone like me, don't use the jargon. Like, I'm just like, yeah, okay. And what? Anyway.
Exactly.
Gus, anything to add?
Yeah, I would say just having confidence. I think sometimes young engineers can lack confidence, and I think whether that's with doing calculations or communicating with somebody, but I think that stuff just comes through experience. And one of the ways that you can get experience is by not only getting your job once you graduate from college, but I think when you're in college, and if you can get into an internship or a co-op, then
sure,
that can help in a big way.
Cool. Good stuff, you guys. All right, Gus, you're up. I think this is a big one, because working with some of the high school students and guidance counselors, math comes up, that can be a struggle for some students, but they might want to do engineering. So the question is, what and how much math do you use every day?
Yeah, that is a big one. That's a good question. I think, to be honest, the most important things and most commonly used things are basic things. But knowing how to apply them to real world situations is the key. So, I do primarily adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing, but knowing when and how to do those things
Are you doing
a
like
real
pre-calc
project
or like calculus? I'm just curious because I know this question came from a calc class.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's some of that stuff, but I'm not doing like solving integrals or derivatives on a daily basis.
Sure. Doug, Hallie, are you guys solving, derivative? I can't even say the word right now. Are you guys doing higher level math regularly in your positions?
I am. Not often, but a few times a year I'll have to remember how to do an integral. Or have to, dive. I kept my statics book, I kept my dynamics book because I don't remember that stuff. And then you don't do it enough to.
Yeah, and just to add to that, sorry to interrupt you, but just to add to like statics, for example, yeah, that's important stuff, but a lot of that is just using multiplication and division, adding, subtracting, things like that to solve the problem, but in an oriented way in which it applies to the project. It's not, sometimes it's not doing something overly complex, but it's applying it. So but yeah, I'm sure you're in a little bit different scenario because you're a mechanical engineer, so you have to apply dynamics too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just all that applied physics and whatnot. But yeah, different roles, different situations.
You need to know how to do it. You just might not be doing it on a daily basis. Like you need to be able to recall or pull from that. And even going off of what Doug said, is it more also like knowing when to use it, like what the problem, how to solve that problem. It's part of, it's that problem solving piece.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Doug, anything to add?
No, yeah. My day-to-day, I'd say it's the same. It's basic, basic math functions. Nothing from a leadership perspective, I don't get too terribly technical, but I think they've said it pretty well, is, need to understand the concept, when to use it, and when you run across it in certain situations, how to interpret it correctly.
Sure.
But it all depends on the level of technical side you get into in engineering.
Sure. Cool. Hallie, what do you wish you would have known before becoming an engineer?
This one's a tough one, but probably just how diverse engineering truly is. I know as far as like the curriculum at Michigan Tech, they try and expose you to a lot of different types of engineering. You do a lot of, different disciplines, and, you have the manufacturing class, you have heat transfer and this and that, but at least I didn't realize how truly diverse mechanical engineering is. I mean, you see it almost in every single field. I mean, automotive, the foundry, maritime equipment alone. And so it's your path, at least as far as a mechanical engineer, is like, it's so vast. So I wish, I guess, I would have realized that and maybe explored maybe a little bit more on different avenues you could take.
Sure. That's good advice for sure. Gentlemen?
I guess the thing that I found was engineering sometimes is tougher than solving a math problem. At Tech, they tend to give you all the variables. And so when you get into the real world and someone drops a piece of steel in front of you and say, hey, you need to figure this out and good luck with it. And like, oh, it's just to change your mindset from solving paper math problems to actually, okay, so what unknowns do I need to make known, and how do I get the basic information so I can do the things I learned in college? Just getting over that hump, I think, was the biggest thing for me when I first came out of college.
The answer is not at the back of the book.
Right.
Yeah, I won't add anything to that. I would just agree with both of them on those points.
Cool. All right, Doug, what is your favorite project that you've ever worked on?
Oh,
I don't think it has to be in systems control. Like, this is like career question.
well, I guess the favorite one would be from systems control. I've had
Just
a
making
few.
brownie points over there now. Just kidding.
They like me enough, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, I think the paint line. A couple of years ago, our powder coat paint line was way undersized for our growth, and so at the beginning of January, we were told we need a brand new paint line, and we need to have it in a year. So basically, a year today, I need you to do that. And well, to make a really long story short, we basically, I want to try to because it's a rather complex one. We basically ripped out the old paint line. We flip-flopped the whole assembly process in our wire area. We opened up space for this new paint line, installed a $3 million paint line inside our facility without interrupting production, without any quality defects, no safety concerns, and saw some significant, improvements along the way as we did that at the same time. And it was my favorite project because it had so many different aspects of engineering involved in it. It had technical, it had project management, it had the people side of it and getting people's input, and just the sheer scope and size of it. And the timeline was rather daunting, to say the least. So I guess that would be my biggest one. Without really diving deep into the details, that would be my favorite. And I'd say the thing I'd be really proud of is the engineers that worked with me, because it wasn't just me. I had two other engineers, Mike Clement and Tim Schultz, that worked on it with me, and those guys were stellar. And if it wasn't for the team effort on that, it would not have turned out nearly as well as it did.
That's awesome. Very cool. The rest of you, lady and gentlemen, do you guys want to share what your favorite projects were or have been?
Yeah, sure. I would say probably working on the design of a two-span concrete pre-stressed eye girder bridge over the Escanaba River.
Those are a lot of big words. But I think location is key here, because everybody is driven that way, so they'll know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's located in Cornell, in Delta County, and the cool part about it is that it's over the Escanaba River, which is one of my favorite places to go fishing. And hammerhead here, and so that was just a cool project. Can you guys still hear me? My internet connection says unstable.
It bounced off for just 1 second, but yes, now we can hear you.
Yeah, it was a cool project because I was involved in every phase, also the construction and troubleshooting some problems during construction and things like that. Which there always seems to be, even if you think you designed a project really well. There seems to be always something that comes up that's not quite a condition that you were able to foresee. And so, yeah, that was a cool project. I actually have a picture of it up on the wall back there. So
there you go. It was definitely a favorite then. It made the wall.
Yeah.
Awesome. Allie, how about you?
I guess one of my favorite projects, it was at my first job. With Lakeshore, our projects last for like 5 or 6 years, and I've only been here for 2. So everything I'm working on, I won't see to fruition until, a few years from now. But my first job at Cooper's Standard, which is an automotive supplier for the automotive industry, they were onboarding a new process for their TOC hoses. And I kind of got to head that up and do a lot of troubleshooting and onboarding of that process across hundreds of different part numbers and stuff like that. So that was really cool to kind of get to engage with the plant and, work with so many different kinds of people and what's the word? Functional, yes. Sorry, my
I do that all the time.
But yeah, working with a lot of cross-functional teams and stuff like that, it was a really cool experience.
My bonus question to that is, for all of you, if a project for you goes for 5 years, that's a long time. Like, what's that like for both Doug, and for Gus? Like, what's a typical lifetime of a project? Because I know for me, I get a lot of satisfaction to like seeing projects come to like see what the outcome is and completing things successfully. I mean, having the patience to stick with something for 5 years, that's a long time.
Yeah, I would say for me, it's rare that it would go that long, but it does range. There's a really wide range, like almost a lot. I would say a lot of the projects that I work on are really pretty fast paced. It could be from sometimes even a couple weeks, and up to, I would say, 2 years. Sometimes the design phase is like a year long, and then construction might be the following year. Like, for example, we'll be starting some projects this winter, and the design will go until, say, later in the year, and then the project will be let for bids the following spring and then built that year. So, it can be a couple of years, but I'd say that's probably the extent of it.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same with Gus over there. As it ranges significantly,
Just
a
based
week
on the
or two
project.
to maybe a year and a half at the really on the outside, but typically it's within a year.
Cool. All right, Gus, what fields do you see as up and coming fields as far as important subsets of engineering? This also came from our pre-calc class. I think they're wondering too, like, what types of engineering are you thinking will be important as we move forward?
Types of engineering?
What fields do you see as up and coming?
Well, I was gonna say for that question that I don't know how up and coming they are, but because I don't know what else to say about it, I would just say that fields like economics and business, those kind of things that kind of knowledge, it can be really important, because I think that as you progress in your career as an engineer, it naturally tends toward management roles. And so when you get to that, you're much more involved with the financial aspect of things. And
Doug could probably speak to that.
Yeah.
He's kind of, yeah. It's cool.
So that's what I would say. Obviously, it's not up and coming, but it's just like important subjects beyond
Sure.
just engineering.
Yeah, the finance side is very important. It's not one we do take econ in college, but understanding project cost and how to do cost savings and such, that is an important topic that definitely probably doesn't get its full weight in college, but you find it out in industry, and it's one of those things you kind of have to learn on the fly.
You can build all sorts of cool things, and then there's the budget you have to
Yeah.
Right.
Here too.
Yeah, that's such
Budget,
a
what's
big part
that?
of
No
it.
one told me about budget in college.
I know.
Allie, how
And-
about you? Anything to add with this? I know you, like, I feel like you've got a good beat on a lot of like the, technology and, different things up and coming on that stuff.
Well, actually, that's interesting that both of the guys here said that, as you move into management, you kind of need to shift from being like a more technical role to a more like managerial, working with budgets, doing labor costing and stuff like that. Because Michigan Tech actually started a new degree program for engineering management, and then they also do systems engineering now. And so I think those two fields are going to be definitely moving up in the ranks of more pertinent roles in engineering fields, because I think that they are more they span kind of both finance and economics, as well as still taking those core engineering classes.
Cool.
So I know they're very new, and so I'm sure like as these students are going to be graduating and stuff like that, it'll be a more prevalent degree that we'll be seeing as employers.
Cool. Which awesome
I could
segue.
probably,
Oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
I could probably actually add in a little bit to that. On it's interesting. I didn't realize they actually added those new courses. Those would be good ones. If you want something more on the technical side of things that people may be interested, is AI is becoming more and more prevalent in industry. You guys see it day to day on Google and all that. You may not even know it, but that's why you get those focused ads on the side. You're starting to see AI and robotic operations, which takes on a different flavor. Robotics is going to be continually to be seen as more where we need to go. There's always a hiring shortage. Like everybody seems to be trying to hire. Dickinson is, thankfully got a really low unemployment rate, but that makes it challenging for a business who want to grow. So like AI, robotics is probably another good one. Just even straight out PLC automation. There's a lot of things within our industry. In my facility alone, robotics isn't a good fit because of what we do and how we do it. But simple automation projects are things that can definitely help and improve things. So like robotics, like if you're doing like the BEX or some of that robotics stuff in high schools, that can give you a foot in the door and understanding sensors and motors and stuff like that. It's really, those are the kind of things I think you're going to start seeing more emphasis on and being able to use and be comfortable with that kind of automation. So
Sure.
when you hear automation, you just got to think of a wide breadth of things. It's just not a robotic arm like it
Sure.
once was. Like there's a lot of other things out there. But then there's always going to be needs for core competencies and some of the fundamental things like weld engineers or paint engineers. You don't think about that kind of stuff, but there's still fundamental needs in those areas. And the older generation is retiring, and we need to fill some of those gaps. So there's, whether it's management or whether it's technical, there's definitely areas in which you're going to see interest in.
Cool. All right, Hallie, what would an advanced degree like a master's or even a doctorate get you? I think they're thinking in terms of, in education, you have to have these degrees to oftentimes get a job as a college instructor or in a leadership position. How does that apply in engineering? What are good goals for some of these students to be setting when it comes to pursuing their degrees? Sorry.
It kind of depends on what you want to do. If your trajectory that you see yourself going on is more managerial, I think that, having a bachelor's degree and, maybe an MBA or something like that will help propel you forward in that sense. If you want to be like a principal engineer or a subject matter expert of a certain part of your like engineering, team, then a master's in whatever discipline of engineering would definitely help. There's a lot of principal engineers at Lakeshore who do have their masters. And I think the reason why they're the subject matter experts and the principal engineers of our company is because they have that extra little, badge, and they, have that extra expertise and that extra, experience. But if that's not something you want to do, if that's something that, you would like to just see yourself be an engineering manager and, or, maybe move into project management down the line or something like that, I don't know if a master's or a doctorate would be completely necessary. That's just my opinion.
Right. And I mean, getting that experience versus, usually people would go into the workforce, and then if that was something they were would you all agree that would be, you'd want to get that experience before just hopping into a master's program, I would think. But again, that's my opinion.
Right.
And I'm not an engineer.
And I do know that different fields require maybe different degrees. Like a mechanical engineer, like I said, it's so broad that, you get into the workforce and then you're kind of inundated with all these other opportunities. And, you see these principal engineers and, you want to be a subject matter expert versus my friends who are civil engineers, they oftentimes go right and get their FE, to get their PE, to get their stamp, to be able to, I think Gus can probably talk more to that than I can, but I know that most of my civil friends have gone on to get continuing education after their bachelor's because of just the nature of civil engineering.
Sure. Do you want to speak to that, Gus?
Yeah, I would say she's pretty right on about that. I personally didn't go for my master's, but I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that if anything, it can give you more confidence as you're entering into the workplace and give you, more confidence to do a really good job right off the bat with a little bit less hand-holding from other people around you. But I do think that nothing can really replace the experience that you get on the job. I think you can only learn, I shouldn't say you can only learn so much in school, but in a way I mean that, like, you do need to do work on real world projects to get experience. And
this is like,
personally,
sorry.
Personally, that's how I gained my experience, was just by kind of getting thrown into the fire and learning on the job and having really good helpers along the way, people that had been there and done that, and people that have showed me how to do things, and you learn a lot along the way. And but at the same time, I've considered at times going for my master's, and just because I think it's also a good goal sometimes to whether you want to excel quicker in your career or you want to just become that much more focused in one area or the other, can help.
Sure. Doug, I have a bonus question that made me think of from this conversation, but I'll let Doug. Do you have anything to add to that, Doug?
No, I think they both covered it very, very well. The only thing I actually would add, one small part, is it depends on the company that you're in. Some companies, in order for you to advance, will require you to be an MBA, or will require you to get your PE stamp, or will require a certain level to move within the company.
Sure.
So that might be a company requirement.
Sure.
That would be the only thing I'd tag on to that.
And I'll add one more thing as well. I forgot to mention this. I think as a civil engineer, it can be really, I don't know if you want to say important, because it all depends on what you want to do in your career. But I would say I would highly recommend trying to achieve your PE. I mean, that was my goal since I started going to Michigan Tech, that one day I was going to be a PE. And so that's the way it was for me. Is you go to college and then you have to work for 4 years before you got to pass your FE, and then you work for 4 years and then you can take PE. And so that's what I did. But some people don't do that depending on what they do in the field of civil engineering. But I think it can be a good thing. It's been nothing but positive for my career.
Patty mentioned that for sure. My question was in terms of like you guys all kind of talked about like getting in the workforce, learning hands-on, right? Important. Did you guys all do co-ops or internships, and like how did that impact your career choices, or how much of it? What did you I mean, like how important was that in your decision making and in your growth? Anyway, sorry, I didn't sign this one, so this was just anyone hop in.
I'll go. I had multiple internships and co-ops, and they were all in very different fields. I did some fuel cell work on engines. I did actually work with 3D printers.
Cool.
And I tried intentionally to be diverse because of that reason, to kind of figure out, if I liked this industry or not, or, do I like research-based work versus more manufacturing work and stuff like that. I think the more internships you can, co-ops you can do, and the more diverse, fields that you can go into, I think that that's just going to help you, unless you like grew up and you like
right?
Hard, yeah. And you just know
I'm gonna work on snow plows, like
right.
Yeah.
Right. Like that is your if your blinders on for that, then absolutely go for that, because you can only, boost your resume. But if you don't know, then experiment with everything. I mean, experience is good, so if you have a little bit here, a little bit there, you'll always gain skills that you can apply to other career or other, industries too. So
cool.
It can't hurt.
Doug, Gus, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think Haley covered it fairly nicely. If I were to do it again, I'd probably I did do a co-op, but I was a non-traditional student when I did my engineering at the time. So I did one internship in his manufacturing, and for me, it was a good fit. I like working with my hands. I like to figure out problems on the fly, and I liked working with people. If I were to do it again, I would. Haley had it bang on the nose. Is like I would look at the different aspects of your career field. Like for me, I can speak to mechanical. Like there's design, there's thermal, there's manufacturing, there's energy conversion systems. Like there's all kinds of different areas there, and you can even do research or you can do application. I would try to find an example of each within your school, whether it's a co-op, whether it's an internship, or whether it's even doing like a formula team or like the SAE teams where you get to use that during school. Even all that, it just rounds you out and you really become more confident in A, your skills, and B, if you're making the right decision for your life, right? So I would highly encourage that diversity. We do co-ops here at Systems. I'd encourage if I had the choice between the two of them, my internship was a little non-traditional as well, but I would encourage a co-op because you do get to see projects from start to finish just because of their time. But that doesn't take away from internships either, and because you still get that time in the seat working with people. So you won't go wrong either way.
Cool. Awesome.
I wouldn't get hung up. Like when I was in school, I got really hung up in trying to get out in 4 years. And that's probably an old school way of thinking of things, and things have changed a lot. Probably date myself a little on that, but I would say, don't be in a rush. If you take the 5th year and you get a couple good co-ops under your belt, that's definitely well worth it. And that actually will go to helping you negotiate a better salary in the end. I think it does help. So I wouldn't necessarily get hung up on that. If you can, college is expensive, so you got to do the math on your own. But that's, I wouldn't discount it.
Yeah, I would agree with everything that you guys said. I took 5 years to finish my bachelor's degree, and I did 2 co-ops. So
cool.
And I wanted to do diverse things as much as possible, and I think that was beneficial.
Cool. You guys, I think I might shake things up a little bit so we stay on time here. I'm going to ask 2 more questions, I think, just for the group. And this one was posed to Doug. What is the number one quality if you were hiring for your team? If you were you're hiring a fresh engineer that just got their degree, what's the number one quality you're looking for to work with to be on your team?
It's hard to say there's number one. As a manufacturing engineer, it's really a balancing act of different qualities that would be successful. I had to give this one a little bit of thought, so you'll have to bear with me on this a little bit.
Did you write it down? You did.
This one I did because
Okay.
I felt this one was a little tricky. And it's a two-parter, right? Like, I think there's a baseline for when we look for people. There's basic qualities that we look for, but then I'd say there's probably things that would differentiate you from someone else that's hiring. So I had three different things that I wanted to cover. One was technical. Like, you're an engineer. You just got to be able to do those basic.
You have to be able to have those skills, right? Like spatial awareness.
And that's your engineering degree, and that's like GPA. Just being able to say that you can do the technical aspects of your degree, and you have a level of competency there. But also, when you have that, I'm also looking for passion. Like, you got to want to be a mechanical engineer, or you will want to be able to use those tools and be able to show that. The example would be is one interviewee brought in a project they worked on, and hey, look at these calculations I went to figure this thing out. It was a little over and above, but the whole point is it really showed me that he knew the stuff, but he also had a passion to do something else with it. So I thought that was kind of valuable. The second thing is teamwork. That gets hammered in at school a lot, is working as teams. So that's kind of a given that you should be able to work well in the team. But what I'm looking for in a manufacturing engineer is somebody that's also able to step out and be a leader. There's times where we lead without responsibility. So I'm looking for somebody that can be willing to step out into maybe a not so popular position and be able to say, yes, this is what I think, and be able to say that and be able to lead something to completion. So it's a combination, but that's the kind of stuff I'm looking for. And the last one is the ability to learn, and that's what your degree kind of tells you. Like, it kind of shows, like, yeah, you can learn.
Sure,
the stuff in
coachable,
school.
right?
But I'm also looking for somebody that has some level of intellectual curiosity. We're always looking to improve ourselves at systems control. As a manufacturing engineer, you got to have some level of curiosity, and like, man, that doesn't make sense. What is that about? And you go and dig into that and be able to use critical thinking skills to determine whether that's okay, there's nothing I can do with that, or A, or B, this is something I can work on. And how do you get that in an interview is a little tough, but those are the kind of things that that's what I'm thinking of.
Sure. Gus, Hallie, anything to add to that? What about you guys? If you were picking someone to be on your team, is there anything in addition to that you agree or disagree with, I suppose, with Doug on that?
Doug hit the nail on the head. The critical thinking, the adaptability, teamwork. I think those are all just very key aspects that you would want in someone on your team.
Cool.
Yeah, I agree. If I could add anything, maybe it would be that I would be looking for somebody that you'd want to hang out with at work on a daily basis, and potentially outside of work even, because you're going to be dealing with them all the time, and
you're at work 40 hours a week at least.
Yeah,
more.
So,
gotta like the person.
Yeah,
they're like family.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. All right, you guys, I think we're getting to the end, so I think we're going to skip some of these other questions, and maybe I'll just email afterwards for additional thoughts to share with the class that specifically sent some of these. But do you have any, we want to share this with our K-12 partners, we want to share this with the community, we want to share this with our Bay College students, really anyone, because I think this is valuable information and good stuff. Do you have any last advice, last thoughts that you'd want anyone going into the field of engineer that you'd want them to know or think about? Parting thoughts.
One thing that I'll say is, when I was entering into Michigan Tech, I was used to being able to get through high school fairly easily without studying very much and things like that. And I don't know, I was personally a little bit more focused on sports than I was in school, which isn't a bad thing necessarily, but I think if you're going to be going into engineering, you need to be prepared to work really hard in order to get good grades. And unless you're a rare exception where you're
Unless you're named Douglas Houghton.
Yeah.
Kidding.
So it took me a good 2 or 3 years of going to Michigan Tech before I learned how much I needed to actually work in order to get really solid grades. So not that grades are everything, but I think
Right.
it obviously you do strive to get good in school.
Absolutely. That's really good advice.
Yeah, it takes a lot of hard work.
Doug, Hallie, anything else? Sorry, Doug, I keep picking on you, but I mean, you just have the best. If you're going to Michigan Tech, to have the middle name Houghton, how great is that?
Well, it's none of my doing, I'll say that.
Yeah.
I just say find your passion. You know, like honestly, like the more I'd encourage anybody, whether you're in high school or in college, and I can do this with my son who's in high school, is like I don't care what you do, but whatever you do, make sure you're passionate about it and that it's something you want to do. And the only way you know that is by trying. So if you're staying at home and, you know, playing video games, maybe you want to be a video game designer. That's perfect. But if you want to get into engineering or stuff, get out and try to find opportunities. The ISD here in town is fantastic.
Yes.
There's to gain some of that hands-on knowledge. I'd say get out and try stuff. That's the only way you're going to know whether you're choosing the right path or not, whether you're in high school or whether you're in college. The more you can actually do something, the better off you will be and the happier you will be with it. So I guess that's my 2 cents on it.
Hallie, wrap us up.
I'll sort of piggyback on what Doug said and sort of circle back around to, you know, internships and co-ops and stuff like that. Get out there and try it and get hands-on with it. You know, I think a lot of people in high school who are trying to figure out what they want to do with their life, look at engineering and they see that it's like a higher dollar figured, you know, degree.
Yep.
After
it sounds good to say you're an engineer a lot of times, right? It does.
Right.
It's cool. You guys are cool. Like you are.
But I don't think a lot of time what I've seen, you know, freshmen coming into tech and stuff like that, they see, you know, the high dollar sign or they see, you know, oh, engineers are cool. And they don't really understand what it takes to be an engineer. And they don't understand really a lot of times what an engineer does. And so, like Doug said, get out there, try it, maybe shadow some people. I know that Lakeshore does, you know, high school mentorships and stuff like that. And so that's the biggest piece of advice I can give, you know, not only just as you're, you know, getting your engineering degree and taking internships and co-ops, but also, you know, getting in your community, seeing what engineering firms there are and, you know, seeing what opportunities they have for you, because
Sure.
you never know, you're never going to know if you truly like something until you try it.
Right.
So the more opportunities you're giving yourself, the better off you're going to be.
And I think all of us would probably welcome anyone who would wanted to come into
You're
our
so
doors.
good, Gus. I was totally gonna say. So if anyone calls you guys and they wanted to job chat you for the day, like I think most people would say yes, you know, or give you a day and you figure it out. So
I never did that when I was in high school, and you know, I think that would have been a really cool thing, and you could learn a lot about what to expect when you're finished with school. And I think obviously you're going to be doing it for a really huge portion of your life. So you as Doug said, you want to be passionate about it and you want to enjoy it.
For sure. All right, you guys, thank you so much. You guys are all so busy, have a lot going on, and thank you for giving me an hour of your time. I'm super excited to share this.